Love it.
So, I'm sure most of my followers know who you are, but for anyone who doesn't, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Ash, or otherwise known as Elf Ash, and I'm a cosplayer.
Really, you don't say. Couldn't
No,
tell by the
shocking.
much.
No.
So mostly what fandoms do you cosplay, and what would you say is your most popular cosplay?
Mostly it's Hell of a Boss, not gonna lie. Hell of a Boss is kind of Stolas was one of my first made cosplays, so he's personally my favorite, and I'm working on like a couple of bits and pieces at the moment to try and flesh him out a bit more as well, which is exciting. Um, but I'd say like, did you say like my
Your most
favorite of my
popular,
own,
your
or
most
my
popular,
most
and your
popular?
favorite.
My most popular is probably is probably Luna. I'm not gonna lie. I get a lot of comments and stuff on Luna. Um, and but my favorite will always be Stolas. I keep going back to him, and just like the obscene face paint and the obscene like extra bits and having a cape. Like, who doesn't want to have a cape, right? Like,
The
everyone
most
should have a cape.
dramatic. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what was sort of your journey to get into like the realm of cosplaying, that sort of stuff? What was like your journey towards doing your first cosplay?
Yeah, I think so. If I started on TikTok, making my own sort of original characters, and I always loved dressing up from like a young age, for like like Halloween and stuff like that. Um, and I sort of started on TikTok just lip syncing, just for funsies. I had a midlife crisis super early on and shaved all my hair off. Um, as one does.
Feels so
And
real.
exactly, like, why not? And I thought, why not? We'll sort of start doing like lip syncs. It was just for fun. I wasn't really taking anything very seriously. And then I sort of developing these characters into sort of a storyline that I was writing, and I was really enjoying the writing side of things as well. And then then I kind of just I started going, oh, well, actually, there are characters that already exist out here. I could sort of, flesh out my set list and make different characters and stuff like that. And that's when my first one I started was with Aziraphale. So yeah, that was kind of my little journey into it.
I mean, I know I probably know the answer already, but I feel like it's a great question for anyone who might be feeling this way. When you were first starting, did you have any anxieties about those kinds of things, like nervousness?
So much, so much. I mean, the not so much about my original characters because I could do whatever I like with those. Like no one could come at me and be like, "Well, that's wrong," because I made it, so it didn't
Yeah,
matter.
it's yours.
Um, yeah, exactly, exactly. And I think that's why I started with that. But when you go into doing characters that already exist and people already have like prejudgment on them and stuff, um, I was absolutely terrified. And I remember the first time I did Aziraphale, actually did Femme Aziraphale. And I was terrified because I was like, this isn't what people, have seen from the show. This isn't what people are expecting. And I sent it out to, like, I sent my first TikTok out to absolutely everyone. Literally, I was just like, someone like it, please. I was so scared that it was just either going to be like everyone was going to take the mic or, any of that. And I was just absolutely insanely pleasantly surprised about the nice reception I got. And I think from then on, it was just almost like an addiction.
I mean, with things like cosplaying, do you ever find like a comfort in it, like an escape almost?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, the fact that you can go in like a couple of days between from being like a sort of like angelic, I don't know, elf, and then the next day you could be like a baddie, and like there's everything in between, and all of a sudden you're just taking on these sort of personas, and the recording of the characters is just so much fun. It's so much fun to sort of get immersed in. Well, how would that character do? Like what song would that character lip sync to? And just like to actually expand into sort of the mind of each character is definitely a form of escapism for sure.
So with things like going to cons and stuff, what was sort of your first experience going to cons like? Like, how were you feeling? That sort of stuff.
I think the first con I ever went to, I was like, wow, I'm way out of my depth. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know anyone. I don't, I was super, super nervous. And I also have face aphasia, for anyone who might not know, which is the fact that I do not recognize faces at all. That's obviously made a lot harder as well when people are in different costumes and stuff. So I think for me, that was one of the most scary things, is that even if I'd spoken to someone online before getting to a Comic Con, it was like there was no chance of me recognizing anyone. And that can be quite sort of, not to get deep here, but it can be kind of quite lonely if you go to a con and you're like, I don't actually know if I'm gonna see anyone that I know, or like, and when you first start out, you don't know anyone. Like it's like it's a big wide world and there's hundreds of people around you. I started at a very small con first, but especially when you go to like MCM or like a bigger one, like, or MegaCon or whatever, and there's lots and lots of people, it can be quite lonely. And it was when I first started, and luckily I have my husband with me, but it definitely was a daunting experience to begin with, but you get used to it, kind of thing, and you get used to the con vibes and you get used to the con life.
You adapt. You eventually know like every third person at con.
Yeah, literally just walking through like, hi, hi, hi.
So you're obviously a creator, an amazing creator. Real quick. So with interacting with other people and people interacting with you,
Mm.
what's sort of your best way to go around that? Like if someone wants to come up to you, take a picture, say hi.
Mhm.
What's your ideal way for people to interact with you, and how would you recommend for people to interact with other cosplayers? And have you had any
I mean,
experiences like that yourself? Sorry.
no, it's fine. I always reference my first ever con. I won't do name dropping on here, but one of my moots I sort of walked up to, and I was really excited to meet them, and it was the first time I'd ever met them, and it was, very excited, and I kind of went into Labrador mode and just dived at them, and they just went, stop. I don't want to hug. I'm not here for this. I can't, like, kind of thing, and immediately told me their boundaries. And I was like, that was the first time I was ever introduced to people being upfront about boundaries. In my life, I've never really had someone go like, oh, my whole family was like big huggers, and everyone was sort of like a lot OTT in my life, kind of thing. So to have someone come up to you and be like, no, this isn't what we do, kind of thing. I was like shocked, but it was good. Like it was a good kind of like reality check, kind of thing. So one of my first things I would ever say to anyone is, if you're going to a con, don't don't do a me. Don't bound up to people. don't don't go straight into Labrador mode. It's really exciting. It's really, people are really enthusiastic, but just make sure you gauge those boundaries first, because I now have realized through a lot of self-exploration that I also don't like to be jumped on. So
Shockingly enough.
it's shocking, I know, right? So so it's really good to sort of have that boundary. And so what I like to do is, when I go to cons, I go up to people and I go, can we hug? Like, are you a hugger? And if that person goes, yeah, sure, let's hug, or like you go fist bump, or whatever it is that you feel comfortable with, and just be open about it. Don't be closed off about it. Just, and if someone says, no, I'm not a hugger, don't be offended by it,
No is a
because
complete sentence.
absolutely, 100%. People can just be overwhelmed. There's so many different reasons as to why someone might not want physical contact at a con. And it's just lay out your boundaries, put out your boundaries. And I would just advise that if anyone was to come up to me to a con, I don't want you to jump on me. I am, more often than not, if I know you well enough, okay for a hug, but I do want to be pro-warned for that. I don't want it to just happen. So it's like, yeah, just come up, say hi, and my thing for me, and I always say this before I go to cons, is tell me your username, because I won't know you by face.
Up
Yeah,
front.
that's yeah, exactly. It's one of the things that I'm always very, very serious on before cons as well, is like, don't be offended if someone doesn't recognize you, because especially like not necessarily me, but like bigger creators, they see hundreds and thousands of faces all day, and you might feel like you know them, but they might not necessarily recognize you, and it's not something to be offended by. It's just like, it's what it is, kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can have those interactions. You can be like, "Hi, this is my username." They might recognize you, they might not, but
Yeah,
people are busy as fuck, especially at con. Like the
literally.
social burnout is so real.
So it literally goes like that. In your 1 second, you're like full of energy, and then the next second, it's like,
I need 10
that's it.
minutes.
I need, yeah, I need my bed. Straight out.
So, more of a serious question. Have you ever had any moments where you've considered stopping cosplay, and sort of what was behind that? If it's too much, you're allowed to say no.
No, it's all good. I'm not gonna lie, a lot. um, but for me, it's not that serious. In a way, it's more of a, I take breaks when I feel like I can't handle it anymore. And that doesn't necessarily mean I have a big step away from social media, although some people need that, and that's absolutely fair enough. But what it looks like for me is, I go, I've got a crap ton of stuff on my list of to-dos that I want to do. And I sort of get sort of, I don't know where to start, kind of thing. Um, so I just sort of go, well, I just won't start for a bit, and just I'll sit on it. I'll maybe do something slightly unrelated. So at the moment, I'm kind of in that space. So I'm doing a lot of my artwork instead, just to give myself time to sort of breathe away from creating, so that it doesn't lose that spark. Because for me, one of the main reasons that I do cosplay is because I find it fun. And if it stops being fun, there's no point anymore. So I just give myself that space and just go, I'm still going to do this. I still want to do this, and I will still do little bits. But I won't make it like I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this, I have to do that, because then it removes the excitement from it. And I will always say as well, on a big project, halfway through is usually when I want to quit cosplay.
When you're at
It's
that
like,
peak trust the process point and you can't trust the process anymore.
it ruins it, honestly. The before bit, when you're like, I want to do this and I want to do that, and I've got so many ideas and I'm so excited, it's gonna look so good, is great. And then the end bit, when it's like, look at what I did, I'm so happy, look at how much I completed, oh my god, I'm so proud of myself. It's that middle bit where A has to get to B that I'm horrible. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was making one of my most favorite props, I think, was my big wings that I have, and I was halfway through making them, and my husband, Mr. Ash, was just sitting there behind me, and I just started sobbing. I was just like, I can't do this
That's so
anymore.
real.
I don't even like cosplay anymore.
Me the
And
other
he's just
night.
like, well, yeah. And he was just like to me, he was like, you can do this. I know you can do this. And I was just like, I don't want to do it anymore. But they got finished, and they're now one of my most proud items. So it's always halfway through that I'm like, I don't think I can cosplay.
This is not worth it. There is no universe
Not
in which
worth
this
it.
is worth
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
What would you say have been sort of like the higher points for cosplay for you? Like your best moment?
Um, it's a bit controversial in answering that, if I'm honest. Because the only times that I've really like gone viral, so to speak, is because of trolls. And I'm not gonna lie, I ride the high on that.
That's so fair.
Because it's I was talking about it a little bit on my live the other day, actually, and it's the fact that once a video is trolled too much, it's attracted too much troll attention, it's lost. That's it, it's gone. You could go through and delete them all, but it's still going to end up on the troll side of whatever it is, TikTok, Instagram, whatever.
Normally
Um,
Instagram.
Normally Instagram, yeah. So it's going to stay on the troll side no matter what you do. So I like to have fun with it, and I'm not gonna lie, I've made most of my from these troll videos that are just incredibly amusing. But I think there is something about, in no matter how you get there, the sort of endorphins from having a video go,
Do
viral
well.
online, because it is like you sort of have this sort of affirmation of how much effort you've put into whatever it is that you've been doing. And sort of people are recognizing that, and whether or not they're recognizing it for good reasons or bad reasons, people have seen it, and that for me is an endorphin rush. um I wouldn't necessarily say it's a highlight, because I think for me, completing big parts of my cosplays, like for instance my wings, or when my Stolas was completed, that for me is the highlight, because it's like I feel like like it was worth it. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was, like I did something, kind of thing.
You get to see the
Um,
results of your hard work and you're like,
yes, exactly. And you look in the mirror when you're in a full cosplay and you're like, this is what it was for. Like,
I feel
you get it.
awesome right now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I don't think anything sort of compares to the feeling of looking at yourself in a cosplay and going, this is what I envisioned. Because there's also the flip side of it that's nothing worse, that when you look at yourself in a cosplay and go, that is nothing like what I envisioned. And that for me is like the other end of the spectrum, like, oh God.
Me with my first Osmodius makeup test, absolutely like, I can't do this.
Literally, exactly. And it puts you off sometimes. You're like, oh God, no, that's not where I was going with that.
Not the idea
But
I wanted. But yeah, like,
yeah.
that from point A to execution, like, that full circle moment is normally the best.
Mm.
And it only gets better from there when you adjust to cosplays.
Absolutely. And then you keep making it better. And then that you sort of get to a point where you're like, this is what I was aiming for at the very, very beginning. Because I think you do have to make concessions, and like you do have to, like, we were talking about the other day about my Karlak costume. And it's like at the moment it's a little bit thrown together. But hopefully the more I add to it, the more I'm going to be like, yes, this is what I was aiming for, kind of thing. And you get more and more proud of each one as you go.
I mean, oftentimes with cosplay, I don't know if you have the same thing. You make it, you try it on once, you're like, this is cool, I love this. And then the second time, you're like, this is fucking sick. Once you have that
Yes,
second
yeah.
time around and you can make those adjustments.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like I think I did the same with one of my Zero cosplay, and I just hated the wig the first time I wore it. I just didn't like it. It was my first ever kind of like masked cosplay, and the wig just destroyed me. I was like, I can't do this. I hate it so much. And then more recently I did it, and I properly sort of put the wig together and I crimped it and all that jazz. And it's just like, yeah, now I like it. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
mean, masculine cosplays, especially, like, when you go from being, like, femme presenting to a mask cosplay
mm,
is an experience.
it really is. It really is. I mean, I'm still learning the art of beard. And every single time I do a beard, I'm like learning a new thing, because it's like it's not something that you can just sort of do. It's
Yeah.
definitely a learning progress. It's definitely sort of like learning how a beard would fit on your own face if you don't grow one. And that is definitely a massive learning progress, and a massive learning process. And it's something that I don't know about, but not many people just wake up good at.
It takes. It's literally like you have to draw in every hair, shade it, all of that. It's
Yeah,
it's a skill in itself drawing a beard. It's
it
separate
really
from
is. It
makeup
really
as
is.
a whole.
Completely, completely. So much so. So much so.
So more of a, it's not necessarily a fun question, but slightly lighthearted. If you were getting into what the con scene is today, as a
Mm.
beginner, do you still think you would stick to it as long as you have? Because obviously it's so much different now.
Well, the problem is with me is I am relatively new to the con scene. So, um, I hear a lot of stories about what it was like way
Back
back.
in the
Like
good
with
old
when I say,
days.
well, when I say way back, I mean, like 20 odd years ago. So not that way back, but I hear stories about sort of 20 odd years ago. And I'm like, it sounds in some ways so much better and in some ways so much worse. So there are definitely pros and cons to how the con scene has progressed. Because I say progressed because it's definitely moved in a way. I don't know if it's forward or backwards, but it's definitely moved.
Just up.
Uh, up,
just
yeah.
just grown like bigger.
Yeah, I think the main thing that puts me off at cons nowadays is the price.
Yeah,
It used to be a lot cheaper to go to cons, so I've heard. But I've never known anything different because obviously I've only been going to cons for 3 years now. So I've never known it to be much different in price than it currently is. Um,
I remember when a
I would
weekend ticket
say,
was £65.
oh, those are the dreams that I dream of. Um, but I would say the problem is, if I was starting now and I'd heard the amount of drama that I hear currently, that might be for me something that would put me off because I have never, since I've been going to cons, I've never been part of the drama or any drama really ever. I don't know how I seem to just circumvent it anytime I go to a
You're
con.
just too mature. Me sat here full well knowing I'm like half the drama you hear about.
No, I just don't think. I think I don't know. I don't know how I managed to avoid it, but I do. But I think if I thought that cons were is engulfed in drama as I hear that they are, then it might have put me off going, I guess, as a sort of a newbie. But the thing is, you hear about all this stuff, but there are ways to avoid it, and I apparently just do them. So I don't know what they are, but I do them.
You're just so chill. You're so nice and chill. It sounds like I'm absolutely glazing you. I'm just being genuine. Like you're so nice and so chill. It's impossible to have drama with you. I couldn't if I
I
physically tried.
I think one of my favorite things that I've ever been called is that I'm so far on the fence that I have splinters up my arse. Is because I am the reason why I don't weigh in a lot of any particular drama, anything, anytime, is because I can always see both sides of the coin, and some coins aren't worth lending yourself to, if that makes sense. Some
100%.
sides of the coin aren't worth lending yourself to, but because I can see both sides, I sort of I give my opinion in sometimes the incorrect manner or in a way that people don't take the right way and stuff like that. Which is why I tend to be very sort of placid and on the fence because it's
Sweden.
like
Is it Sweden? Switzerland?
I'm
Switzerland.
not very good at geography.
Neutral. Neutral.
Neutral, yeah.
Just a whiff.
I like
Yeah.
yeah, I like to be neutral because and also like I said, I'm not very good in drama. I tend to sort of just hide. So it's I don't yeah I said to one of my friends again, I won't name drop, but I went when I started becoming close friends with them, I was like, if there's any drama, you will see me yeet out of here because I don't do it. I'm not part of it. I will always be supportive to my friends, but I will not be involved in it. And that's just
100%.
how I tend to lie.
So what sort of fandoms would you say you're mainly a part of?
What I definitely think anything that comes about as like current, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, just because, and it's completely accidental because it's more of a fact that I'm like, oh, that looks good. I'll watch it, and I'll be like, oh my god, I'm obsessed now. Um, that's kind of how it goes. Although in fairness, the fun fact is about Hell of a Boss specifically, is that Mr. Asher was watching it, and I literally looked up from whatever craft I was doing that day, and he was watching it, and I was just like, "What in God's green earth are you watching?" I was like so judgy. Like, I can't remember exactly what I said, but he was like to me, you were so judgmental," and I'm not really a very judgmental
You
person.
are.
I think it must have been one of those scenes, if we all know what we mean, of Hello Boss, and I was just like, so like, what on earth?
They got noirs. It's probably that.
Probably that one.
Go over to
It probably
Patreon for
was.
the uncut version. JK. Don't have a Patreon.
Yeah, so it was probably some kind of strange like a thing, and then I was like, oh yeah, whatever, like I'm not gonna watch that, that's weird. um and then I think I saw a cosplay of Blitzo on TikTok, and I was like, I need to be Stolas. I don't know who the Stolas is, but I need to be him. Like, I want to be Stolas right now. And I found out it was in this show, and I didn't know it was the one I judged Mr. Ash for watching. So I got kind of like obsessed with this show, which was Hell of a Boss, obviously. I got obsessed with it, and I was like, Mr. Ash, I want to make Stolas. And he was like, you took the mick out of me for watching that show, and now you're obsessed with it. I was like, whoopsie.
Oops, here we are. Time to make the cosplay. I mean, I guess that kind of follows into my next question. Once again, you're completely okay to say fuck off. What's it like having like a semi-public relationship, having your partner in the scene as well?
I think for me, it's very, very positive. It's, I mean, also if you look at it, sort of, very in a sort of black and white manner, it's very helpful. Because Mr. Ash is very much more experienced in this stuff than I am, so I can go, so I just want to make this bit of armor, and he's already got 7 ideas, and he's like, he's on it, kind of thing. But I think there is come times where it's, how do I say, it's like there's an expectation. So it's like, oh, there's Ash and there's Mr. Ash, and sort of like if he goes live on TikTok, let's say, it's, where's Ash kind of thing, and if I go live, it's like people talk about him, and it's not separated. There's never sort of a
You're heavily
separation.
associated with each other.
Yeah, and again, it's sort of a double-edged sword, because I don't really see that as a negative thing, because I love him, and we do most things together anyway, so it's not really a big issue. But I could see if we were different people, that could have
Would
been
be
a problem,
uncomfortable,
kind of
yeah.
thing. But yeah, we don't sit. I mean, it comes a part where you talk about sort of like doing duos with other people and stuff like that, and I think when it comes to stuff like that, you just have to be really open about your boundaries, and just be like, it's why I say stuff like on TikTok that I say, you ship characters, not the cosplayers, because in the end we are acting, and it's, I have a husband, other people have partners, and as long as we're all very open about that, that's kind of what
when we finish
we sort of...
filming a saucy TikTok, surprisingly we aren't making out, we're just laughing at how cool we look.
Literally, and I think that's the problem, is that people see a percentage of what you put online, and they make up a lot of the rest. And I've had people do like things where, like, some people have thought like, oh, have said stuff like, oh, but what about Mr. Ash, when they've seen me like in a sort of duo TikTok with someone else. And I'm like, you do realize that I'm not making out with this person.
It's not
I'm just
cheating, it's literally a video. Yeah.
I'm just stood next to them, like that's literally all we're doing. And I've also had it other ways as well, where people assume that we are the characters and that we behave in the manner that we do, like when we're Alistair and Husk, like he really chains me up and stuff, and I'm like, no,
Sorry.
come on, we're not. And if I did, it's not your business. But no, but yeah, I mean, you mentioned fruity.
You're getting sent that as a clip. I hope you know you're getting sent that as a clip.
But that's the thing, is people see a percentage of what's online, and they automatically assume that either that is your entire life and that's actually how you behave as partners, or that you're like, cheating on your partners. It's like it's very perplexing that people don't understand that it's just a percentage of what happens in your real life.
It's maybe like 25% max of the actual process.
Absolutely.
A singular TikTok, more realistically, like 3% of the actual process.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just, it is crazy that and you think all the face paint and all the editing and all the lighting and all that stuff, and it's just like, and yet you're focusing on the fact that we're apparently a duo, and I just, yeah, it perplexes me sometimes. Yeah. It really does.
Oh. I think that's about it. Whereabouts can people find you if they haven't already? I've done all over my page.
I'm the weird Vox and the weird Fizzaroli. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram as elf_ash666.
Do you have any parting words?
I would say just keep at it. If you ever think, oh, I can't cosplay, we all thought we can't cosplay. Like at one point we're like, oh, we could never do that. I could never do that. And it's not true. You can, and we all can.
With enough hope, you can do anything. Even paint yourself funny colours.
Absolutely.
Thank you